Welcome to Spirited Straight Talk, the podcast to help you thrive with the help of spirit. I'm Deb Shepard, psychic medium, spiritual teacher, and author. Each week, I bring new insights to help you heal from loss, connect with spirit, and turn setbacks into triumphs. So let's get started. In more than 2.5 decades, I have done at least 55,000 readings. So I do feel like I have a lot of advice or insight to this work. And part of that is understanding for individuals, what is the difference between a medium and a psychic? And are all psychics medium? No, but all mediums are psychic. So when someone goes to hire a psychic, they are assuming at times that they're also a medium. However, this is not the case. They might be able to tap in somewhat, but they're not true mediums. And if you're hiring a medium to understand the differences in what you're hiring, it's like going to a doctor or to anyone that's an expert. You want to look for someone that has the background that you're looking for. And how do you do that? We're going to give you some tips of what to look for and what to ask as you're hiring somebody, and to know what information to take with you and what information may not resonate with you. Because just because we get advice from somebody that's called an expert doesn't mean it's always the perfect advice for you, even though I'm pretty darn good at what I do.
You definitely are.
However, there are times where it hasn't always been right on, or there's a little bit of a gray area. So what you want to learn is the background of the individual you're hiring. When you look at psychics and mediums, unfortunately, they don't go to a college and get that degree, and they always don't have the ethics that are needed for their practice. So these are some things I'm going to recommend that you look for as you begin to look or hire someone that is in this profession. First of all, you want to make sure that they have references. Have they been doing this for a while? Is there testimonials? So for me, when I started this work, I really didn't have a direction. I went by my gut feeling, and part of that was giving back to the community, doing a lot of readings that didn't charge. And I, went into communities that would allow me to come in and practice my trade and then begin to establish my work, the following or references, things like that.
And your reputation.
My reputation.
Yeah.
And I had a blessing of being invited on the radio and things like that. Go ahead.
I was going to say, and just in case the audience hasn't learned how you started, maybe you should share that story.
Sure. Because a lot of people, if you ask them how long they've been a psychic, they'll say, well, since I was a child. That wasn't my case, even though I can go back and remember certain times in my life where there's those aha moments. I remember telling you that I had a dream that Elvis died in the bathroom, and my mom said, what do you want for your French toast? You want powdered sugar or syrup? And of course, he died in the bathroom, which is just what my dream said. So
not long after, right?
Correct. And I really didn't have a connection to Elvis other than I knew who he was, right?
And you were how old?
I'm trying to remember, maybe my early teens.
So like a tween?
A tween, yeah. I'm trying to remember. But I remember just going, Mom, With that said, a lot of people will say, I've known this my whole life. That wasn't me. And I'll tell that story. So even though someone has done it their entire life, you want to look at how long they've had a practice in place, because there's a difference between just knowing things versus helping people through their own journey, which is really, to me, the key. But I was married at the time. We were going through some challenges regarding employment and money. And a girlfriend of mine told me about feng shui, and I started studying that. I had no idea what it was. It was something foreign to me. However, when I started practicing the methods and the belief systems around feng shui, I could feel dead people. And I still had no idea what that meant. I happened to call a girlfriend and told her about who I was hearing from, which was her father.
And this was 21 years ago.
Or longer.
It was not, Google wasn't a thing yet.
There was none of that. And I remember just going to the library and reading books going, okay, well, I guess I'm a medium. What do I do with that? Had no idea. Like, okay, what is this about?
And you just knew it was loved ones that have crossed over, knowing you had that ability and connecting with you.
And I didn't understand ethics and boundaries at the time. And I remember going to a couple parties in my neighborhood, like Bunko and things like that, if you've heard of that during those years. And someone, having a glass of wine, and someone's grandfather would come through, and I would be crying about their grandfather. I wasn't always invited back to those to those kind of gatherings again, which makes sense because I didn't have my ethics and boundaries in place. I didn't understand how to manage what was happening. It's like Pandora's box opened up, everything opened up, and I could feel everything. And I didn't know how to manage it. And over time, in a short period of time, I realized I had to manage it, create boundaries, and have ethics, because no one wants to just have you walk up to them and tell them someone's here. Yeah. And I know that there is mediums that do that and individuals that do that. However,
you didn't have a mentor, right?
No. I just trial and error.
Yeah. But you had somebody who was a medium that you could call up and
Actually, she wasn't a medium.
She wasn't?
No, she was a psychic.
Oh, okay.
And Laverne, I'm sure she's passed because she was in her 80s at the time. And she's actually the one that she had a friend read for me and say, because I was, worried about my husband's career. And she says, why aren't you on the other side of the table doing readings? And I thought she was crazy, not realizing this would be my future. And I kind of argued with her. But Laverne was really supportive. She was one of those people that encouraged others with abilities to show up. And I called her and said, I can't live by having these voices in my head all the time. How do I turn it off? And she says, well, what time's your appointment? And I go, I don't know, 6:30. And I probably answered just like that. And she says, well, tell them to leave you alone until the time of your appointment. So I said, okay. So I turned it off. I just said, okay, I don't want to hear from anybody. And that's when you hear the crickets that we call, we didn't hear anything. And so I started thinking, oh my goodness, maybe I turned everything off and I have these clients coming. Oh shit. Yeah. So with that said, I thought, okay, well, worst case scenario, I've turned it off. And if I don't get anything, I'll just not charge these individuals because obviously I can't do it. Well, they came in, I sat down and said, okay. And all of a sudden it opened up and I was able to hear their loved ones and do the session, which told me at that time, I don't have to be on being psychic 24/7. And I think a lot of people in this line of work want to be turned on all the time. And I just don't think it's healthy because we need to have an earthly experience. We're human. So we need to be able to, live through our experiences, but not have that wiring in us at all times, that on button. And I don't want to be with people always getting their information. And people will think, oh, are you reading me? And I'm like, you know my joke. If there's no money on the table, I'm not doing a reading. And that's not true. But what I believe is it's not my right to go into your space without your permission. And I noted this as I got older. I know I need to lose weight. I don't need someone to walk up to me and say, you know what, you need this diet plan. You need to do this because maybe I'm not ready to make those changes. Maybe getting to this place where I am with my weight. There's a journey involved. There's other things involved. Most people don't want unsolicited advice.
Right. Unsolicited advice is the worst.
Yeah. So, and people have tried to come up to me and tell me, you know what, you should be doing this or that. And it is like fingers on a chalkboard for me. And if I am in a relationship with people and friends, even you and I don't go in and say, Dana, this is what you should be doing. When we have those conversations, we open up to both of us, our intuition, because you're highly intuitive as well. So we use those skills when we're on the job. Let's put it that way. And a lot of people think that they can just be open at all times. And I don't think that's healthy for the people in your life as well as yourself. If you are looking to hire a psychic and medium, I will give you some tips that I think are important.
I mean, of course, call Deb.
Well, yeah. Hello. Well,
first and foremost,
let's go there. Not always have you been the one that booked appointments, but when someone calls to book an appointment, what are usually their questions? How do you respond? What do you think are some of the main highlights of?
Well, I will say that honestly, you have such a great reputation. My job is easy 90% of the time. They call.
Unless they ask, do I have 10 minutes right now to answer one question?
Yeah, occasionally that happens. And
Does she have 10 minutes?
I have to stop myself from chuckling. But for the majority of the time, my job is easy. I have to say that your reputation is fantastic. And so you have a lot of people that have seen you over the years that will always come back and see you or get their checkup or, whatever the case is. But for the person that's calling in that wants to book, that has never experienced a session with you,
or even a medium.
Yeah, you definitely get a lot of people that are new to this
realm.
Topic or realm, whatever you want to call it. But first question is she really that good? Or why can't I book with her in the next few days? Or really, she's 6 months booked out? Oh my God. So those are really the things that I run into. But for the most part, people they're just ready to see you and they wish they could see you today, but they know they have to wait.
So if they're not booking with me, I think it's important for people to look for a psychic and medium that has a good reputation.
And that does come up
a
lot. If I'm walking them through that, I always recommend, because if they can't book with you
for whatever
reason, or they can't wait to see you, I always say, do your due diligence, make sure you find a reputable medium or a certified medium. You're certified, you've been tested. And so
a lot of times.
So I do bring that up, that you're worth the wait in that case.
I've heard people say, I had 2 other readings before yours. I probably wasted some of my money, and that's okay, because I think it's important for people to have the experience to know the difference too.
Yeah.
And if you're looking for someone that does have a good reputation, you want to see testimonials. Social media, if they're not on social media, you really want to know, then how do I know that they're a good person, that they actually have ethics and they can be that messenger? And it's coming to the place of, what is their ethics, which is, I think, the biggest thing when it comes to this work is our line of work. We have to create our own ethics. And so when I teach students, which I love the teaching part of this, if they want to do this as their business, ethics is the biggest thing I come up with. And I tell them to do their internship, which means do at least 100 readings for free.
Yeah, they have to do an internship with you.
Yeah. Because I want them to really be able to know that when they charge, they feel confidence, because they want to trust their intuition. They want to trust what they're getting. And I have heard so many horrific stories that I want to talk a little bit about.
This is what brought it up.
This is what brought it up.
This is why we're talking about this, actually. Yeah.
Because when I start hearing some of the comments that other people in my profession have said, I want to get on my soapbox and I really want to be that preacher. And
teacher
versus, because I don't want to talk bad about somebody else, their experiences and how they channel information is going to be maybe different than mine. So I can't judge how they do their business. But in the same time, I want you to understand that when a medium says to you that your loved one is stuck, or they're still on the earth plane, or they're in another place that you can't connect with,
or they're in between.
So when someone as a medium says, I can't connect, those type of answers, ask more questions. Like, where are they? Why are they stuck?
You as the client, ask them more questions.
The client, ask them questions. Now, for me, there has been...
I say, just from my experience, behind the camera, behind the scene, is if they say something like that, take your money and go.
Yes.
Because what we've found, and the feedback from clients that you've met with, that you've helped through that process after they've been hurt, is so hurtful to the client. They can't...
We still have guilt.
They have that. Yeah, it creates such a guilt and such a sense of just shame, and
especially if it's a child,
can't get past it. Yeah,
or they had to make some tough, decisions regarding their loved one's passing, like taking them off life support.
Yeah, to watch you help them work through their process, though, and help them through that. But that's after somebody who maybe isn't so great at their job.
Or this is the other part I get with it. There have been a few times in my career where I haven't been able to connect with someone they wanted to. And it could be for lots of reasons. One could be, I've had a really long day and I've been doing lots of readings and I'm worn out. Or you wanted 40 people to come through and I was able to get 30.
Yeah.
There's a point where it's almost an overkill. It's like going to a buffet and eating everything that's on the buffet and not digesting it or eating the whole plate.
Right.
You want to realize that there is a limitation to our energy because we're moving energy through. If someone I can't connect with, I own it. I say, I'm not getting anything, but I'm sure they're okay. This is take the information that came through of all the loved ones to know that they're in the same situation. They're there. It's just me. Be humble.
I've never seen you not be able to connect with a loved one's energy.
I have.
Okay. I believe
in private sessions or something where I'm just like, I
not
can't.
Getting their energy.
Not getting it. Yeah. And it's not, I don't tell them that it's the loved one's fault.
Right.
And that's the difference is I'll take the accountability versus saying what's going on with that loved one. It could be lots of different reasons and it might be just
they could have reincarnated, although you connect with their energy through Akashic records.
Absolutely. However, sometimes we're just spit. And I refer this back to our abilities. So people think that we know everything or we should be able to know everything. And one of the things I had to learn about being humble, which is the biggest thing, because this is when people say it's a gift, that just irritates me. This is an ability like everybody else.
I think it's special, but yes, I agree with you.
I think there's fewer people that can do this, but it doesn't mean I'm special or better than somebody else. I'm just good at my trade. Just like when you hire someone, you want them to be good at their trade, what you're hiring. But when someone is pregnant, I'm usually wrong, which is now a comedy act where people go like, what am I having? And I'm like, I don't know. And I'll guess, and I may be right. I mean, you have 50-50 chance, right? I mean, it's not like difficult. Now I should say, well, they haven't decided what they're going to be yet. Maybe I should go with that answer. Well, when they're born and they're about 8, maybe they'll choose to be another sex.
Either they're cisgender or...
what is it?
I don't know.
But there's a couple of things regarding that I love. And this is what I use as a teaching tool. My guides and your loved ones give me information. If they don't give it to me, I don't have the answers. Versus looking at me having the answers. You never see a psychic winning the lottery. I mean, have I ever? And I watch these channels of people winning the lotteries, and no one said I was a psychic or I'm a psychic. We are also limited to the ability of what we can get, and there's a reason for that. We're not all knowing. We have a lot of information. We see things and feel things differently, so we're able to download what comes through. But if we're not giving that information, we're not allowed to just make something up. Honor it. I'm not getting anything on that. There's nothing wrong with saying that.
Right. Well, you have a team behind you.
Right.
Your guides, source, universe,
loved ones,
God, loved ones.
Whatever you believe in.
It's all there, but you can only receive and share what you're told, is what you're saying, right?
Yeah. And for some things, I think we're not supposed to know everything. I use the example of when someone, if you have a doctor or an attorney, whatever that you're hiring, you want to make sure that they actually went through the education and the testing to be licensed. Because if they were given the answers, would you want to hire that person? Are they an expert? So when I'm giving information, if you're not supposed to get that information yet, there is a process that you are supposed to go through and trust that and trust yourself, then that information isn't going to be valid for you at that time. It's like telling a child at 5 versus 15 how babies are born. You decide how information is going to come through. And if the person you hire isn't owning it and they're making an excuse, that's not good. That's not good. They need to be humble. It's important, in my opinion, to say, I'm not getting this information. This is how it feels. Or how does it feel for you? Because a medium, or especially a psychic, it should be, a lot of the information that comes through should validate how you're feeling, because you've been hearing information from your guides. So that's one of the things to know with a psychic or a medium is, is it feeling right in your soul? And again, going back to not being able to get the sex of an unborn child, to me is saying, keep humble. You're not all knowing. You know what we give to you, and that creates boundaries, and it teaches me to say, I only get information, again, I'm going to repeat this, that is given to me. But I'm not going to make an excuse. The reason why I can't get it, it's not been given. I've had people go, well, I know they'll get tons of information, but then they'll go, well, what did my dad call me? What was my nickname? I'm like, I have no idea. Tootsie, whatever. Right. I don't know. However, sometimes it comes through. Now that she's a friend, she told her husband that she was going to come for a reading to connect with her father. And he wasn't a believer in this, which is normal. A lot of times people do not tell their loved ones, family members, friends that they're going because they may be judged. You're wasting your money. It could be their religious beliefs. And so during the session, her father came through and it was a good reading. And she goes, well, my husband doesn't believe in this. And I said, that's okay. Everyone has their own rights to opinions.
Skeptics are okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And she goes, he wants to know the color of his carpet when he was a kid. I'm like, okay, I'll see if I get anything. And I went on with the reading. And as I was getting closer to wrapping up, I said, blue-green. And she goes, what? I said, his carpet was blue-green. It came through. And I think his mother had passed. That's probably where I got the information. So she went home to tell her husband about this carpet, and he couldn't remember the color of the carpet. So he had to call his sister, and the sister said, yeah, it was blue-green. And it was like, wow. So it can come through, but my job is not to prove to you I can do these things. My job is to give you information and you decide what to do with it.
Yeah.
Don't expect when you hire someone for them to have every answer for you because you have your own responsibility. It's like if you go to a doctor and they say, hey, you need to exercise and change your eating habits and A, B, and C. If you don't do it, things aren't going to change. At the same time, you have to decide, do you want to take the accountability for your health? It's the same with this kind of guidance.
Right.
What do you think about all that?
I think you're a good teacher.
Okay.
That's what I think.
And that's the other thing is if someone you're hiring continues to want you to come to them, have a red flag up for that. So we're not licensed therapists, and I do have a lot of therapists that help people through grief and loss.
Counselors and therapists,
that send people to me. My job is to do a reading and then move them back to the therapist. If someone is continuing saying, well, I have more information or I'm going to charge you more, take your credit card and run, for sure.
Yeah.
I like to actually empower people and have them trust their own intuition versus coming to me. Coming to me, it is evidence that their loved ones are around them or the intuition they're getting or the feelings they're having are real, to trust it. But I like to teach. I love teaching. So teaching people to bring up their intuition, to understand their limiting beliefs, to be able to tune in to their own sight, their own intuition, abilities, and to see signs from their loved ones. I would much rather do that than continuing to have readings with me.
There are people that see you a couple times a year or once a year that continue to see you for readings, but you don't recommend they come and see you for readings like
all the time.
All the time, That you want to empower them by having them take some classes and learn about their own intuition and abilities.
Develop and have that community. I'm all about community.
Yeah.
And so some of my workshops are a weekend or they're online up to 6 months to a year mentoring. So you have access to me, but I'm not just giving a reading. I'm helping you develop what are those fears? What's the limiting belief? What keeps you from really opening up? Because we're all born with our intuition. We just, through culture and our life, we turn it off because we don't trust what's coming through. So if this person is continually having you come back, then question that. And if someone comes back to me for another reading, I always go, is it more than what you already experienced? Or do you have more questions? What didn't get answered? To make sure that I'm not giving the same information I have before. When that's happened, I say, you can't book another session until you do these things. So my ethics are, don't keep coming back to me for the same answers. Here's some advice. Here's some tools. Here's some books. Do these things before you decide to make another appointment with me, because I don't want to be that person that just puts the Band-Aid on the situation. I want people to feel empowered. So question this about the person you're hiring. What is it that they're helping you with? And at the same time, is it more that they need a therapist, someone professional, versus someone in our category? For sure.
Well, you have, from that perspective, you have people that have a loss or a significant loss, any type of loss that comes to you, as well as they're stuck in their life process and they come see you to help work through that because you can connect with their guides, go through their life stuff and help unpack it.
Yes.
From an intuitive perspective, as well as from their past life perspective. But you talked about earlier, difference between a psychic and a medium. So you have people come see you for all three of those things.
Correct.
So past lives, medium, connecting with loved ones that have crossed over.
Including fur babies.
Including fur babies, and because animals
are family,
and then also intuitive life stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So teaching them to work through all that on their own, not all mediums or psychics out there
Can provide
help
that
you further.
And especially if they're giving you fear.
Yeah, that's a big thing. Yeah.
And so what I find with, and I know that I have said things and someone didn't get clarification. They thought it was a fear. There was some fear around there. I go, no, ask the question. If someone is telling you something that feels fear-based, then question them more about giving you more details. What does that look like? Because you should walk away feeling like you've got some nuggets. Maybe not everything resonated, but were there enough information in there? Were you open to that process? Because a lot of people want to know A, B, and C. Well, it doesn't come through with A, B, and C. We can't always see the future because things change, but we can see the future based on where we are at this moment or that person's energy. If your energy shifts and changes, when you move forward, it will look different. So that's the other part
free will.
of it. Free will in it. So use your own intuition when you're getting a reading. If there's fear, if they're trying to tell you you need to do something that's really weird, which is not something normal, like, okay, you need to go do A, B, and C before this curse or whatever will be removed.
Please run.
Please run. Don't listen if it's fear-based, unless this is something in your belief system. But if it doesn't seem like you're getting peace, you're not getting the answers, you're feeling like when you walked away, wow, this was
scary.
Powerful or scary. Yeah, you want to pay attention to which one. Most of my sessions, people tell me it takes a couple weeks to process.
Mm-hmm.
So if they walk away feeling yay, when they go back and listen to the recording. So recording your sessions are also very valuable to you because you may miss things and you're emotional. And when people have these emotions, they go to the emotional piece of what they want versus the process of what the person is telling them, especially me. I will go through and like when I do Facebook Live, I ask for who they want to speak to. In a private session, none of those questions are asked. Unless someone didn't come through that they wanted to hear from, then I give them that opportunity. However, I never try to create fear. Yeah. Your loved one's stuck, they're mad at you, and that doesn't happen. I wouldn't do this work if that's what came through. Mm-hmm. The person that I'm doing the reading for is already in a place of grief and they need healing
and fear sometimes because they don't know what to expect.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And they're worried that something negative is going to come through. Mm-hmm. So for me as a messenger, I can talk about the situation, but talk about how the perspective of it in different ways so someone can learn to process and deal with it. So it does take sometimes a while. Mm-hmm. And re-listening to that recording is vital.
Right. The only reason, and I do say this a lot too, and we read some information the other day that really spurred this podcast to come about as well with a medium that's out there that doesn't really communicate very well and does create more grief.
Mm-hmm. More challenges for the healing.
Right. And that's the biggest thing is when the healing that I hear that comes from a session with you as a reputable good medium versus the harm that can come from somebody not quite as wise or experienced sharing information that's more hurtful than healing.
And what I find sometimes is that they have more of an ego versus a feeling of who is your audience. Mm-hmm. And for me, I go through my own stuff in life. I have my own grief, my own hiccups in life and life lessons. So I understand that I am still that human being having, a spiritual being having that human experience. And I have to recognize that I have failures. I have mistakes. My intuition is great for other people, but maybe sometimes I don't listen to my own.
Right.
But what I find when someone feels like they have this ability, they take it to a place of they're not humble. And they just sort of say things that
their ego gets in the way.
Mm-hmm. Now, I do believe that I have to have an ego to do this work.
A healthy ego.
A healthy ego. Because to tell people you can do this, you get a lot of...
Yeah, I talk to the dead.
What do you do? Which I don't always share with everybody if I'm in that situation. But to me, I have to be humble and honored that I'm able to be a messenger, where some of them will feel like they know all. Mm-hmm.
I'm the guru.
I'm the guru. And guess what? We're not gurus. We're still trying to figure out our own life. And I know that throughout my career in this work, my readings have changed based on my experiences and what I've been through, especially going through a lot of suicides in my life has changed how I do readings or support that community. that have mental health or depression or have suicided. So it does change based on our experience. But if some medium out there, psychic, says something and it is hurtful and it doesn't feel healing, it is just
see Deb Shepherd.
It's just their belief system. It's what they're sharing, just like
it's where they're at.
It's where they're at. All religions, all cultures, all different families have a different way of believing, and so do people in this work. And when I share things, I always say, this is from my experience. I'm not saying it's the only way. I never say this is the only way, except when it comes to ethics. Ethics is different. I will always be on board and on top of that and question anyone that's not. And if your person that you're hiring, if you say, well, what's your ethics? And they really don't have anything, or they're telling you that loved one is stuck, things like that, just know it's where they are in their journey of this profession. So really do, like you said, do your due diligence to find somebody and take the time to really find someone that's going to be good for you in your situation. And before we used to be in the closet, we didn't come out very often. And now
came out of the closet.
Came out of the closet. Now we're more mainstream. So there are a lot of people coming out saying, yes, I've been doing this for a long time. Take the experience as walking in, being open-minded, but also listening to your own intuition.
And healthy skepticism is okay.
Absolutely.
Cynicism, maybe not so much,
right.
But healthy skepticism is okay. Even in your sessions,
yes.
You are open to skeptics.
Absolutely.
It's okay.
We have people really prepared because they're waiting for a while and they pay some good money, and we want someone to walk away with a really good experience. However, when people don't do their side of it, we find more challenges, at least I do, when I'm doing the reading, because someone comes through that they didn't remember that had died, things like that, or they didn't want to hear from that individual. I get that a lot. I don't want to hear from my ex.
I don't want to hear what my ex-mother-in-law says.
I'm like, well, that's too bad because it's there. She's here and she needs to talk. So it's being open to all possibilities. I remember we did something online here a while back, and I want to bring this up because it was really a challenge and I had to get up and walk away. But because the person didn't prepare, she wanted to hear just from her mother. And that was the beginning of the reading, of the group reading. It put a kink in my hose, basically, is what we say. And I kept getting two police officers that had died, and no one could validate. Well, when I came to her, I finally said, well, who do you want to hear from? Because I was just getting blocked. And she was in her 60s, so she didn't just have her mother pass, but that's who she wanted to hear. Yeah, plenty of others. And so I talked to her mother, and her mother came through and said, you know who these police officers are? And she was, oh, yeah, they were my mom's brothers. They were uncles.
Oh, my gosh.
Do you remember that?
I remember that, yeah.
And it really tipped over the whole group because then it was a challenge and people didn't want to be there and they didn't want to believe because it was the sense of you have to be part of the session. And so when you're getting a reading from anyone, especially me, you can be a skeptic, you can not give me information, but the validation is important, is to be able to help to continue so that you get more people coming through the flow of information. And that's the key that happens just once in a while, and then I'll get frustrated.
That's the first time I've seen it in a group where the hose was kinked that much. But
yeah. Normally,
once you shifted the energy, once it flowed perfectly.
Yeah, fine.
But yeah, that was.
So take your part too when you're hiring somebody to really investigate how they are as a medium. If they're giving you work to do the work, which is what you go over more than once with the client.
Yeah, because we want them to have the best experience possible. We want them to be in a good headspace.
Correct.
And, all the stuff that over 21 years has helped them through their session, through their side of it.
And part of it, when you get other people coming through, it helps validate more that I didn't know anything about you. I didn't do any research. You want people to know that without a doubt, they walked away saying, yeah, my loved one's okay, and this is who they're with. So on that side. And then when it comes to a psychic reading, to be able to have that psychic, including myself, give information that can be validated at the time of the session so that as you move forward, you can trust it and do it. But the work is really up to you as well. So bottom line here, when you are looking to hire someone with my abilities, do your work. Really look to see what is their background. If you're paying $25 for a reading, they may be really good, but also expect that their qualifications may be worth $25. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Now, you and I, when we travel, we'll go see a psychic at times and we have fun. And part of that is for me to be on the other side, to listen to how someone delivers a message. But it's also okay to have it as entertainment and fun, and also just get a check-in. What are you sending out to the universe? What is part of your energy? What's being said? And a lot of times we don't like to look at our own stuff. Uh-oh.
As a psychic, you don't want to look at your own stuff?
Do you see me sometimes ignoring my own stuff?
No, never, Deb Shepherd.
I want to ignore it. So when I wanted to be on my soapbox the last couple of weeks is because people were more hurt by the medium than the healing part. So if you're choosing to hire a psychic or a medium, do your work. It should be something that you can trust, that you're putting your heart out there, your energy, your money, your time to get somebody that can help you through the healing process, because it does work. And I know that people have come back and said it was 2 years of therapy, and that's what your sessions should feel like. It should feel like you've got the answers you need to move forward. What I'm going to recommend for you is to listen to my other podcast to see if the things I'm sharing resonate with you. And these are the things you want to ask anyone that you're hiring. So follow my podcast, join my classes, whatever it takes to be able to help yourself heal. And because of Zoom, we have clients all over the world, so it's not limited to zip code. Thank you for joining us on Spirited Straight Talk. Thank you for listening to today's episode. I hope it inspired you. If you enjoyed our conversation, make sure you subscribe so that you get notified of new episodes. And let's get connected. Visit debshepherd.com for more insights, support, workshops, and a book a session with me. And finally, always remember, your loved ones in spirit are just a thought away. Even though they're on the other side, they're always by your side.